You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Welcome to the Rock Your Life podcast. Discover the tools you need to fulfill the highest, truest expression of yourself. From family and wellness to business and goals, it's time to dream out loud. It's time to rock it.
This stuff will rock your world. Rock!
And now your host, Chasta.
Dennis Willis, welcome to the Rock Your Life podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
It's so awkward and weird to have you here too, because we talk every single day of our lives, but not in this capacity.
And usually I'm the one who's like, okay, we're going to do this first and this. And
we really have kind of reversed roles today, haven't we?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. And you and I made a promise earlier today when we were talking, because actually we're sort of codependent. Have you noticed that? Like we talk like 12 times a day sometimes, like, oh, I stubbed my toe, need to call Dennis. So earlier today, we made a promise that we would not be in broadcaster mode. Right. Yeah.
Right.
That we were gonna lay back and have a conversation about the creative mind and about creative passion and what moves us, because we have these deep, wholehearted conversations all the time. And how many times have we said we should be recording this?
That's true. And how many times have we said, boy, it's a good thing we're not recording this.
That too. So just as a reminder, we're recording. So there you go. So I want to make sure that everyone knows who you are, what you do. So we do have to be a little bit on right now, just to get the website bio pitch, if you will, your verbal resume, so people kind of know the story, the career of Dennis Willis.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it a career necessarily, but because you get paid for those, right?
It's not ever about money for me. You know that. My heart's not about money.
Nor me either. So is this my elevator pitch to you?
This is the elevator pitch. I mean, not
well,
necessarily.
If nobody knows, I produce a little show that you happen to host called Soundwaves TV. And we've been doing it since 2018. Mm-hmm. And we met when we met in the hallways sort of Cumulus, because I was at KGO, you were at the Bone.
Right.
And before that, we produced Soundwaves, some version of it, for 25 years. I started all of this when I was 14 years old. And I've been doing some variation of music or media or broadcasting or blah, 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 or whatever since. And that's kind of like the short version of it.
Yeah. And that's what immediately stuck out to me when you sort of pitched me to help you with a Christmas episode of Soundwaves TV back those years ago. And I remember after you left and we parted ways, I kind of went on Google, right? And I started looking up, like, who is this dude? What is this all about? And it took me about 3.5 minutes to go, oh my God, like this guy's been doing this forever.
What a loser.
Not at all what I was thinking. But like, I was just, immediately what struck out was you and Stephen Kirk and the rest of the gang that has been Soundwaves TV over the years. And some members have come and gone, I know. But just the fortitude and the creative passion and the love and the devotion to this thing that started many moons ago when you were in high school. Was it like junior high or high school?
It was high school.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah.
I mean, who else do you know that keeps a high school project going their entire lives? Like, that's amazing.
Again, what a loser. But I mean,
no.
I jest, of course, but when it's kind of like, you discover at a certain age something you like to do. And for me, it was, I started high school. High school was all brand new and fresh, and it was all new people and all that stuff. And there was something about the newness and the reset of that. And I discovered, you're becoming who you are at 14.
Yeah.
And I knew I loved music, and I knew I loved movies, and I knew I loved stories, but I couldn't quite articulate it. It was just something. Mm-hmm. But I discovered journalism, and I discovered my local access TV station, like within weeks of each other.
Yeah.
And I discovered I love to write, and I discover I really want to play music for people. And those two intangible things that are both kind of about talking to people, they propelled me, and it's all I wanted to do. I wanted to write nonfiction and fiction and stories and movies. And then I wanted to make TV and video and all that stuff. And it just, when you say this thing is right, because I don't know what to call it, and it's not a career, but I get up every day, and I think I probably have since I was 14, wanting to make something.
It's a creative passion that won't stop, you know? And I think what you just said is one of the things that binds you and I creatively is like, we love music, but we're not musicians. But we
Right.
always wanted to, number one, play music for people in one capacity or the other, help build musicians up, and tell stories. You know, you've wanted to tell stories in writing and filmmaking, and I audibly tell stories on the radio.
That's right.
You know, and it's one of my favorite, the art of storytelling, and the importance of it, quite honestly, too. You know, I've been a surprise, a talker since I was very, very young. And I used to sit when I was, you know, a little girl and have long, drawn out conversations with my grandparents. And so I love that oral history tradition. And so that's kind of what came into play. And you have a love for putting that on film and on camera. So you and I, like, it was amazing when we came together, when you pitched me to do just that Christmas show for Soundwaves. And then we got done with that one show. And I immediately, like a magnet, was, okay, what are we doing next? Like,
Right.
why, you know, this is one thing I've never asked you before. And I'm interested to hear your answer. Why do you think that we did that? Like, why did our souls just click into place as like creative partners and we never look back? Like, we never stopped creating from that day on.
It's kind of like when you meet a friend. It's kind of like when you click. Like Steve Kirk and I, when we met, it was just instant, and I've always known him. And it was the same with you.
Yeah.
Very few people in my life have I had that experience with. But when I met you, and I thought, and my whole thing, you got to know, is that I don't expect anything from anybody, and you know that. And
Yes.
so, like, I'm pleased and thank you all the way. And if I'm asking you to go the extra distance, I'm like, I better buy you dinner or something.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
so
no
true.
expectations. And so when you, who, let's face it, you're this popular radio personality,
Oh,
you've got
please.
a family, no, really, I mean, that's something I take seriously, and I don't want to waste your time. And so when I met you and you came down and you did this, I told Steve and Joe and all them, I was like, I don't know how much she wants to do, but whatever she wants to do, we're going to let her do it. Because if you want to come in and do like a 5-minute thing, awesome. We had Chasta on the show. And if you want to do more, cool, we'll explore it. And you came up to me and said, what are we going to do next? And I'm like, oh, okay. And you forced me into a place to where I didn't feel like I was dragging people along with me, because when you do something for 30 years, you know, you feel like you're hitting up the same people, asking the same, can you work camera for me again, Wayne? Can
Right.
you, you know, and there's almost a sense, you either get a sense, and I do, like you've got a band of brothers and sisters, you've got the Soundwaves family, as I refer to them. But there's also the sense that, like, I don't want to go to the well too many times, because like somebody may get sick of it, you know?
Oh, amen. Absolutely. You don't want to wear people out, because you
No.
know that your creative spark is still that ember that's burning and burning and burning, but you don't know how other people feel.
Sure. I mean, people want to go home and watch TV or something, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you came to me, and I thought, wow, she's really like invested in all this. And it was kind of like, wow, she likes me. You know what I mean? It's
Totally.
I mean, and not to put too, you know, I mean, but it's kind of like that. Like, really, you're as interested in all this stuff as I am.
Yeah.
And so when we had the conversation about doing Soundwaves TV, the show, remember the early conversations were like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And it was like this process of figuring out, like, you're like, oh, I'm all about the local scene. I'm like, okay, cool. We have cameras and we can, it was like really just like taking all our toys and pushing it into a pile.
It was.
It was so organic, you know?
It's so true. It was bringing all of our interest into one play space and going, okay, what are your strengths? What are my strengths? And really working them out. And I feel like you and I that's why we work. You know, we have a really good balance of strengths and weaknesses. We know what each other are good and not so great at, you know, and we have found a way to, like, gracefully walk around those things. And like, I don't even know how to put that. It's like an unspoken thing with us. And
we have our what's the word I was looking
yin and
for?
yang.
Maybe, no, but you know, like when you work with somebody and you just know their shorthand, that's the word
There you go. That's exactly. But the shorthand was immediate. It came from the very beginning. And
you
that's
can
what,
grunt and nod at somebody and they know exactly what it is.
That's exactly.
We had that like immediate, like, yeah, just okay, right.
Yeah, got it. Okay. go. It is true. And, you know, I mean, creatively, you can't ask for anything more than that. I've said this a million times on Soundwaves, you know, like we're not in bands again, we're not musicians. And I know that being in a band, those partnerships are like marriages. They're deep, intimate relationships because we're opening up about our dreams and our aspirations and our goals and what we want in life. And,
Right.
you know, some of that happens on the camera, but most of the time that happens on the phone or in person over drinks or whatever, you know, and we really become incredibly vulnerable with each other. And we let each other in on dark secrets about where we thought we'd be or what we thought we would be doing and where we creatively thought our lives were going to go, you know, and I don't know exactly what you thought you would be doing, you know, October 20th, 2020. I have a feeling it probably wasn't Zooming with me, but let's just go back to like age 25. Let's just say that. At age 25, creatively, where were you and where did you see your path headed?
Well, at age 25, I wasn't quite a grown up yet.
Yeah.
I was working at my family video store.
Mhm.
What was 25? 25, I was, okay. You know, I wanted to be the great American writer. I was so taken by, at that point, by film
Mhm.
and screenwriting. I mean, screenwriting really bit into me. It was something that I didn't discover early when I was writing for journalism, whatever, but I wrote books, you know, I wrote stories, long
Sure.
form stories and everything. And then I thought I'm going to try to write a screenplay. And as soon as I began reading screenplays and we didn't have an internet back then, you know,
Right,
so it's
right.
like, I mean, we did, but it wasn't as prevalent. And so I'd go to Los Angeles to visit Steve when he moved down there. I'd go to these bookstores where you could purchase screenplays and I would just devour them. And it's like, I became so in love with screenwriting where I'm like, my superpower, my blessing and curse is I can watch a movie and go, end of act one. Okay,
Yeah.
we just set up the B story right there, you know.
Yeah, it's so true.
But I thought I was going to make films. I thought that I was going to, and it's funny you mentioned this because I just went on a long drive. I surprised my wife for her birthday. We went up to Lake Tahoe, as you know.
Yeah.
And on this long drive, you know, you think about things on a long drive.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I began on this drive, I began connecting the dots between, I remembered projects I wanted to make, short films. A song came on the radio and I was like, that's the title of a short film that I started telling my wife about this thing I was going to make this one time and it fell apart at the last minute. And then I realized how many things I wanted to make fell apart at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could feel that guy again. I could feel that early 20s creator who saw his whole life in front of him and knew I was going to make these films, then I was going to make these films, and then I was going to get an agent, and then I was going to do, my path was very clear to me.
Yeah.
When I was 23, 24, 25.
Yeah.
And it didn't go that way,
Yeah.
you know? And I suppose it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of life. It's the nature of the industry. Things were different back then. Right now you can do anything. Anybody can pick up a phone and have a HD camera and make a movie. It's incredible. I tell my son, he was 14 and blowing me out of the water on Premiere and After Effects. I said, if I had your toys, if I had your tools when I was 14, I'd be ruling the world right now.
And you and I go down that path, you know,
Yeah.
you and I we can fall into those conversations where we first say, what if we creatively were partners 20 years ago? What could we have already accomplished? And that, you know, it's kind of fun, but it can also be a little bit taxing to your soul to do that because coulda, shoulda, woulda, you know, I mean, we can't do anything about that. So it's better to just go, okay, now we have found this creative partnership and what's our goal? What's our power? What can we accomplish? And all those things. I mean, Dennis, like, you know, I had the same exact path very clearly set in my head at that age, except for on screen. See, funny, if you would have written those films, maybe I could have starred in them.
See?
Right?
What could have been.
Well, it could have been, but life didn't present that path to me. And, you know, and I think it's good for you to realize, and I don't know that I consciously was aware at that age that was happening. It's very easy to look back hindsight's 2020 at these moments and go, you know, wow, that's how my life unfolded, and it was for the better. But at that moment, I was going to be, you know, I moved to Hollywood from Oklahoma, and I was going to be a starlet and an actress, and then I fell into Hollywood, and it wasn't what it was cracked up to be to me, for me.
Right. Sure.
And I wasn't willing to like play the game that I guess you have to play, and so my path very much changed. And it's funny, fast forward to where we sit today. I couldn't have dreamt up this whole scenario my whole life. Like working, first of all, living here, I never had plans to live in Northern California. I was an LA girl in my heart, you know what I mean? So living here, being with the guy that I'm with, having a kid, I never thought I was going to have a kid. I knew I was working in radio, and thank God, knock on wood, I've always done that. But partnering with somebody who I didn't even know back then to do a TV show that means everything to me now, it just, isn't life a trip like that?
Totally. And don't get me wrong, I don't sit here and like sip my whiskey and go, oh, woe is me, what might have been. I don't, that's not who I am. I'm very much looking forward. Now, I'm nostalgic and I'm sentimental about the things that I choose to be nostalgic and sentimental about.
Yeah.
My friends mean everything to me. My friends are my family, you know, those experiences and certain experiences that, you know, you just don't talk about. You think about when you're drinking whiskey late at night, but those are the things, those little markers in life that kind of like inform who you are and how you look at things. And there's just, and I just put it on the shelf. I take it down when I need it. I don't have a lot of regrets. You know, there's a lot of like, oh, I have a great idea for a movie, and then they make it, you know, then I wasn't part of it and it makes a lot of money. And I'm like, damn it. You know,
that was my movie.
That was my idea.
Yep.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of creative friends, and at some point somebody always goes, you know, boy, if I, and you know, we all do that, but that will kill your creativity. That will kill your spark and make it so you never want to make anything again. And that's not where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. You know? There's 2 points I want to make to that. There's a book I read called Big Magic. I believe, I could be wrong, and I should have done my due diligence. I'm really bad about that, and I'm a journalist. I believe Elizabeth Gilbert wrote it, but I read it a couple years ago. And her idea about ideas is amazing. Now, this is a little hocus pocus, but just follow me on it. And she basically explains that like ideas are like living, breathing things in the ether, right? Yeah. And they pass through us. And if something comes to you and you don't grab it and you don't run with it, it gives up on you and goes to someone else. And when I heard that, and again, I'm paraphrasing, that's the Cliff Notes version, but when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, we've all had that moment that you just described, where you're like, this is my idea, I'm going to do something with it, this is my goal, aspiration, or whatever, and you never take action on it. And all of a sudden you look up and somebody has done that thing.
Right.
And it can, if you let it, eat you alive, and it can push your creativity down if you let it.
But that's a beautiful sentiment. It's a beautiful idea, and I believe that. I totally believe that. I can't even tell you how many times like something will climb in and I go, I gotta write that, I'm gonna make that, I have to say that.
Yeah.
And then I don't, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it moves on, and I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a good feeling. It's kind of like pining for somebody who's not going to like you back. And there's that moment where you go, wow, I'm not thinking about her anymore.
Right.
And it's empowering, you know, and I feel that about discarded ideas. You're absolutely right. If you don't do something about it and somebody else does.
That was your loss, and maybe it was meant to be. You know, maybe it was meant to be that other person had that as a part of their life story. Right. I just find with aspirations that don't work out, you know, or creative endeavors that don't come to fruition for whatever reason, that I don't let it eat at me, because I'm a perfectionist by nature. I'm type A, as you well know, and preaching to the choir. And so you can let those things, you know, eat at you. What would you say has kept your creativity over this span of time at its level? Because if I'm looking from an outsider's point of view, okay, I'm looking at your life, it looks like you've never once had like a creative blip. Like you always just trudge on and go and create and keep going. And it's amazing to watch, especially as your creative partner now. It's incredible. How do you do that?
Well, we don't talk every day.
Almost.
And there are more days than not where I I always tell my wife, I'll walk around in circles and I'm frustrated and I'm all dirt scraggle over my head. And she's like, what? And I always say the same thing. I can't find the light switch. I'm walking around and I know it's right there and it's beyond my grasp, but there's this thing I don't know how to say, or I don't know how to shoot, or I don't know what my approach is going to be. And there's something about the creative process, and it's when it's just beyond your grasp. Oh, it's maddening. It's I've called you before where I'm just like, oh,
absolutely.
And I, I'm guessing that's universal, but man, it feels like you're the only person in the universe. It feels like you're the least creative person, like I've got nothing. And that's when those feelings of like, man, I suck, I tend to, but
be overwhelming to the, they can wash over you
because you put that pressure on yourself.
Sure. Exactly.
The world's not waiting for my idea.
Yeah.
I am, and I'm impatient, damn it.
Right, exactly. Or how many times have you and I had a conversation where you had plans in your heart that we were going to do this thing on an episode of our show, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. Maybe it was a tech issue or something, somebody didn't show up or whatever. And you're so upset. And I say to you, no one knew we were going to do that. Like, we haven't let anyone down but ourselves. We never made an announcement. We never, so I think being a creative person is so much about being graceful with yourself.
Yeah.
Like I write in my journal every morning, give yourself grace, because I think in creativity, you every day, no matter what you do, I don't care if it's music or graphic design or writing, it doesn't matter. It is so easy to fall into a trap of being really hard on yourself. And there's nothing worse for creativity than talking bad to yourself, or, that will stifle you in a heartbeat. So you have to find sort of some way to work yourself back out of that. And oftentimes we're lucky to have a creative partnership where we can pick up a phone and go, God bless, like, okay, here's where I'm at. I can't understand. Like, here's what I want to say, but I'm not saying it right. Help me. And that's super helpful. So I would say, first of all, if you can find a creative partner, do that. But I
found a few.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to bring that up. Thank you for that segue. I'm not your only creative partner. You and Stephen Kirk have been creative partners for how many years?
35 now.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are just, even though it feels like we've known each other forever, we're just on the beginning of our journey together. Talk to me about that relationship, that brotherly creative partnership that you've had for decades.
It was instant. He showed up on the set. We had Soundwaves at the time was an after school request show, and it was live. So all the kids piled into the studio, and I would pull my hair out, trying to, just get them to pay attention and play music and stuff. And we had cameras pointing all over the place, and it was fun. And people dug watching it, mainly because they were laughing at us. But it was great. So we always had a rotating crew, and Steve showed up one time. I didn't know him. He got on camera. He was cool. And that was it. And we struck up a conversation, and it never stopped. We ended up in the parking lot for hours just talking about movies and music and what we could do. And he came from like a theater background, and he saw what I was trying to do. And he's like, why don't we do this with the lights? And why don't we do this as a skit? And why don't we bring the cameras outside? We were already doing crazy stuff like that, but he just took it up another level.
Yeah.
And like yourself, he came along at a time where I felt like I was swimming upstream, and then somebody comes along and says, no, you got this. Let's make it good. Let's make it better. Let's take this and build on it. And I've always had that with him. When we got kicked off the air the first time, we moved in together, and we just were hellraisers. And we worked at my dad's video store that he opened up. So we would like work all day together and literally party all night, and just get up and do it again, like every weekend. And it was great. And we got sick of each other, of course. And that's what happens when you become too close.
Sure.
And there was a few bumpy years in there, and it took a while for it to climb back. But I can say that, like yourself, I talk to him every day, and I'm just like, okay, look, I can't, and we work it out. He's right. You called him the devil on my shoulder, and that's true. But the other thing he's amazing at is that I can I can have 98% of it worked out, and I can't reach that last 2% to save my life. And I'll call him and just go, okay, I've got all this and this and this. And he'll go, well, let's just do that. And it's like one little tiny thing he'll say where I go, oh, right. Of course.
Yeah.
That's, and we just have that.
And that's what creative partnerships are all about,
Yeah.
and it's about like finding people's strengths. Like you're right, Stephen. I mean, I came into this already established Soundwaves family, and he was very graceful to accept me because I was the newbie, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know anything. And you guys took me in under your wings, literally. And thank God for that. And I've become a partner with the both of you. And I'm super grateful for that. And I think we talked about this before. I think we all sort of serve a different purpose, and we play a different role. And I think the thing is none of us really are playing a role, but we're all such different people. And God, his creativity, like his mind just works like mine doesn't. Like he can see things.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he can see things like and play out things that I just can't do. Some of the stuff he's come up with, skits or whatever, especially like Halloween fun stuff that he's come up with on Soundwaves, I just sit back in awe and I'm like, that's just not how my brain works. And it's amazing to see that.
Every week I'm writing the script and I find that because, there's a format to the show.
Right.
And usually he comes in about a third or half a way in to do something. And that's where I try to find that one video where I'm like, I have no idea what he's going to do, but I'm going to give him this video because there's a haunted videotape in it. Go.
Yeah.
And then he cooks up this whole thing based on the haunted videotape because I know he's going to, it's going to spark. He's going to run with it. I can't wait to see it. I don't even want to know about it until it shows up. And that's, for me as an audience member, I know I'm producing it, but my thrill is just waiting for the video to come in every week to see what you guys do, because everybody brings themselves in some level of awesome to it.
And that's what makes this team work so well, is like you see that creative spark in Steven, and so you let him run with it. I mean, you're the producer director of this show and you run the whole ship. You're certainly the captain. And I'm careful saying that because he is Captain Kirk after all. I gotta be careful.
Right.
But,
Gotta get that right.
but you do see our strengths. You know what I'm good at. You can wind me up and tell me what to say and I can run with it. For the most part. I do have a blooper reel. But my strengths, his strengths, and then you let us sort of go. And I think that's what makes all of this click, and then allows for the creativity and the open conversations and relationships to happen, so I'm so grateful for that.
I actually kind of learned how to do that when I was running the video store, because we had our way we did things. And this is the way new employee comes in. This is the way you do things. Okay, great. And we had this one guy come in and he's like, can I do it this way? And I was like, well, no, this is the way. Yeah, go for it. And then he had all these big, crazy ideas. Can I rearrange this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And I'm like, you go right ahead. And there was something about that letting go that was terrifying.
Sure.
The structure keeps it moving in this direction. And what if this goes really wrong? We got to put it back. And he figured out he was working the bulk of the hours, and I was kind of taking a little bit of a step back. So I'm like, make it yours. And he did, and it worked. And I was like, huh. And so ever since then,
that's a life lesson.
Yeah, totally. You don't stop somebody. I mean, there's that old joke. You don't stop your enemy when they're defeating themselves, and but the same is true creatively. And that's that you don't stop somebody when they're being brilliant, when they're doing it their way. You brought them in for a reason. Go. And that's I love that.
That's so good. I think 2 important lessons about creativity and working with partners in that capacity is to drop your control issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking about everyone. Everyone has a certain level of control that they like to maintain. That's just being a human. And also dropping your ego, and doing what's right for the creative space, whatever you're creating. As people know who listen to this podcast, my husband is a drummer and has been his whole life. And he's been in so many bands and done so many creative endeavors. And he will often say that like he drums for the song. You know, like it's very like drummers, you know, they get made fun of because they like to, you know, show off and do their thing. But, and it's easy for him to do that because he's a master drummer. He'd be embarrassed. He'd be embarrassed for me to say that, but it's the truth. But you know, you need to play for the song, the creativity, you know, that's there and what you're making, the project that's there, it creates its own life. And then you have to find a way to respect what that is, not what you want. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, I was I was a film critic and still am to a degree for a bunch of years because it kept me out there. It kept my name out there. And it was, you know, let's face it, you know, going to free movies and award shows is fun. But it occurred to me that at some point, as the TMZ culture crept in, it occurred to me that a lot of my reviewing brethren were bringing all that personal stuff to the movie with them. Oh, this guy is cheating on his wife. I can't watch this, or he was accused of this, or whatever. And I'm just like, and I became defiant about that. And I'm like, no, all that movie has to do is what it's going to do inside that rectangle. Like whatever's going to happen here is the only thing I'm paying attention to. I don't care about the rest. And I kind of like defiantly drew that line, and that informed the creative process for me and vice versa. I'm not sure chicken or the egg, but I honestly believe that every creative process, whether it's a song like Jay was talking about, or a movie or an episode of our show or whatever, it only has to do one thing, and that is be faithful to itself.
Ooh, that's the quote of the podcast. Oh, yes. Preach. That's great.
It just has to be internally consistent. You set up rules and you can't break those rules. You know, you just have to live inside this world and whatever that means, you know.
Oh my God. I have chills on chills right now. It's so true.
I could do this all week.
This is why you're a writer, because you're a wordsmith. And I
wish I was more of a writer. I really do.
Well, do it.
Yeah.
In your spare time that you don't have.
Exactly.
We're too busy making magic with Soundwaves. It's funny that you bring up the TMZ culture. On a side note, just a tiny little sidebar, that was part of the reason that I ended up leaving LA and leaving those dreams behind, was because the Hollywood that I had in my head of the Marilyn Monroe type days, and, you know, growing up watching the Oscars every year in the 80s and 90s, I had a very specific vision of what I thought I was stepping into. And when I was trying to somebody was trying to cast me to be Paris Hilton's best friend on a reality show, I was like, this is not the meaningful stuff that I came here to create. And that's all I was getting, was that sort of stuff, you know, the reality crap, and TMZ was taking over. I almost got killed by a car chasing Jessica Simpson, I think it was. I mean,
and if you had played into that culture, that's all you would have been, and they would have spit you out 6 months later.
And I would have felt completely empty inside, because I am so genuine and authentic in my love of creation and music and arts, and supporting those specifically on my end. It would have sucked the life out of me. And so I, you know, going back to our previous conversation and you talking about no regrets, I have no regrets either. And while I couldn't have ever dreamed my life as it sits today, and I know you feel the same way, I'm so happy. Like I sit here and I'm so grateful to be where I am. Are all of my goals, dreams, and aspirations accounted for? Not even close. You and I have so much, we have so much on the docket for the next, until we die, years. You know, but to be in a place where, and I'm not even talking about money. You and I agree, like we're very much in agreement about money does not drive us. It would be nice. It would be nice. We would love it. But we really are both driven by the art of creativity and the love of these projects. And I can't even tell you how grateful, I'm going to start crying, how grateful I am that the good Lord put you in my life, and that you chose me to be a creative partner with. It means more than you can ever know.
I'm back at you. I mean, I can't believe you actually got it. You know, you actually like went, oh, I see you, I get you. And I'm like, and that's empowering, you know? And since you've done that for me and you've done that for us, I'm really trying to be a better human and do that for others. You know, I'm trying to support as many musicians as I can online and just say, hey, and watch their stuff, and, you know, and take an interest, you know, it's like, be a better listener. I'm trying to, you know, really get that, you know, here's the thing. I know a lot of people who are in their own creative heads. And it's hard to see what other people are doing in the world or doing creatively.
Yeah.
But what I can do is that while I'm up my own backside when it comes to my frustrations or what I want to do or what I'm not doing or what I didn't do, whatever, everybody else is doing the same thing. Every other creative person that you and I come across has the same story. They're either stuck here or wanted to do that, or they're building to do this, or here's my magnum opus, and you just want people to listen to it. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like you just want it to be heard and acknowledged, you know? And I
Amen.
so appreciate that. And I have to say, maybe I would have gotten here on my own, but I really got here because of you, you know, and because that's the example you put into the world when you throw your support behind these people who are making art and making music, and you do it with your full heart. And I love that. And you're such an example to me to appreciate other people's art. It's amazing.
Thank you. You know, I think it's such a basic human need, maybe the most basic human need outside of needing to be loved, is needing to be heard, you know, and whether that's the thoughts in your mind or what resonates in your soul or the music that comes out of you, if that's, you know, your life. I mean, whatever it is, people want to be heard. They want to be understood. They want to be a part of something, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we're creating together, you know, and I'm really proud of that. You know, here in the Bay Area, our little domain, you know, the music space that is the Bay Area, it is something special, you know, and you and I have talked ad nauseum about this, you know, about wanting to support the creatives and the musicians and the artists, because it is important. You know, imagine a world without music and arts. Like, you know, it's right now in COVID, we're sort of having to deal with that thought.
Right.
And none of us like it. And it's really something that could actually, on the back end of this, be gone or almost gone, you know, and nobody's going to save it but us. So it's even more important now what we're doing, just to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. It's even more important for us to be connected and to be building up, you know, this family of gypsies and musicians and crazy creative people here in the Bay. And we got a lot to do. We have a lot to do. And I'm excited
we have a lot to do,
it.
but I'm encouraged. I honestly think, you know, people talk very romantically about the film industry in the 70s. And if you look at that explosion of original and independent voices, it came after a war. It came after a very stale Hollywood system where everything was G-rated. I mean, there was this bursting of creativity and painting with different colors, violence, nudity, language, whatever. But now I can tell this personal quiet story. And the early 70s, like, I feel right now with all these conglomerates gobbling each other up, with radio gobbling each other up, TV, everything is becoming, it's by and large, you know what I mean? It's from like Wall-E, it's one company owning everything. But what's happening? All these voices, all these writers, all these performers, TV shows, independent shows like art, it's all bubbling. And when the big gate crashes open and when the whole thing collapses, you're still going to have artists. You're still going to have these voices that need to be heard. And there's your renaissance. It's happening right now. It's not going to happen. Sure, clubs are going to close. And the whole thing's, and maybe we can't go to theaters, and chains are going to gobble each other up, and theaters are going to go away for a while. Whatever happens, though, art will never. The artist will never. The musician will never go away. Storytellers will never go away. They never have. So whatever the medium is, whatever the delivery system is, the thing that gets me out of bed every day is knowing that I am exactly where I need to be with whom I need to be there with. Did I say that right? Probably not.
Yes, you did. Yes.
Okay.
No, you absolutely did. And amen. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
And
it's weird.
That is what keeps the creative spark alive.
That's right.
Even when you're up against a wall and you can't finish that 2% of the idea, even when you're like, you feel like this thing that we love so much today, it feels like a job, because everybody has those moments creatively. Even on those days, your worst days creatively, it's that sentence that you just said right there that keeps the spark alive, knowing I'm right where I need to be with whom I'm supposed to be.
And what's funny is a sentence like that will separate the wannabe artists from the real artists. Because if you say that to
Absolutely.
somebody and it's somebody talking about writing a book for 20 years and you say that to them and their follow-up sentence is, oh, but I'm too busy to do all that.
Uh-huh. Right,
The
exactly.
excuse starts coming out. And that's fine. That's cool.
Right.
I don't begrudge anybody for going, yeah, I wanted to do this thing, but now this is more realistic. Lord knows if I was a bricklayer, I'd make more money.
Yeah. Me too, actually. Yeah.
But I was not made to be that. That is not who
Right.
I am.
And it's not who you are, and it wouldn't fulfill your soul.
That's right.
And that's what keeps us going.
Mhm.
Oh man, I just
How long
love
is
the
this
shit out of
podcast?
you.
We could do this for like 6 hours, right?
I know. We so easily could. At some point we probably should or could really go down a path of what our future is going to be together. I mean, we have such huge aspirations. I think at some point we just need to call our shot, you know what I mean? And go,
Right.
I mean, that's scary. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to personally write things down in your journal quietly and you close it and no one sees it. It's a whole nother thing, to call your shot and go, okay, here's what we're going to do and put it out there. You and I have done some of those stuff and those are scary moments. And I always appreciate that you never turn your back on those things. When you say you're going to do something, you do it. As long as you have power to do so.
Right. I was going to say, there's a lot of caveats on that one there.
That's the big caveat.
You're the one who does the 20 things I'm going to do this year and gets to 17 of them. Okay. Like you're giving me way too much credit right now.
It's the truth though. That's one of the things I appreciate most in people that I work with is the people who are like, we're going for it and come hell or high water, it's going to happen. And I appreciate that about you. So thank you. You're a driving force behind me, like you believed in me when I didn't really kind of know everything I was doing, but you're like, you'll figure it out. You got this. And just throw stuff at me. I was like, oh crap. So I had to raise myself to a level that you had me at,
You had it from like the first segment. Are you kidding me? First time we shot anything in the hallway at Green Room, I was like, we're doing this.
We're doing this.
Doing this.
And we're going to be doing this for a very long time.
Remember you said that.
Yeah, we have it on tape, so we're good. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so proud to be your creative partner. We'll keep going, okay?
Amen. Thank you.
Mwah.